Last time, on Leo's Electronic Solutions, we learnt that the NVIDIA GeForce 8400 GS was a terrible graphics card. But this time, I've added a fan and maxed out the overclock. Is it any better? The first benchmark on our list this time, as it was last time, is Factorio. We are running on low settings, and we are getting around 40 to 50 frames per second here. I haven't seen it dip below 40, it's fairly smooth. We've got a large factory, and it appears to be running it just fine. Anyway, on to the next one. The next game on our list is Simple Planes. Now, we tested this last time doing the exact same thing. I'm going to fly up and around this area a little bit, just like I did last time. If you haven't looked at last video on this card, you probably should, because that was the card running at stock speeds. I have overclocked it quite significantly. I will have detailed stats and how much overclock I got in the description. But we're getting 40 frames per second, 35 to 45 frames per second here. I think we could up the graphic settings. It is running in the native resolution of my monitor, which is 1440 by 900. Yep, 40 frames per second, very smooth, fairly smooth, all up. Good experience, and you could theoretically improve the graphics settings a little bit further than I have here if you're fine with getting a slightly lower FPS. I think I would target around 30 in a game like this, so having 40 is plenty enough. So yes, you can play Simple Planes on the 8400 GS. On to the next one. Ah yes, the next game, the nemesis of this graphics card. Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. This is by a fair bit the most demanding title of today. And it's running in 640 by 480. Everything turned down as far as it can go. We've got graphical glitches going on everywhere. These were happening at stock clocks as well. So the overclock here is just boosting performance a little bit. And this is in the smallest garage with no cars. This is not playable. We're getting anywhere from 11 to 15 frames per second. So overall, Car Mechanic Simulator 2018, not good on any 8400 GS, even if it is overclocked. The next game on our list is The Long Drive. Now, this game sort of ran at stock clocks with the same settings I'm using here, which is 640 by 480, everything slammed down as low as it can go. It gets anywhere from sort of 19 to 23 or 25 FPS. If you're actually out on the road, it'll probably be a little bit more. I didn't really go too far. When you're rendering in this garage, the starting garage with the car in it and all of these stuff, the frame rate can dip to as low as 12 FPS, but it doesn't stutter all that much. I mean, it lags heaps, but it doesn't stutter all that much. You get into a part where you're not rendering as much stuff in, then it's fine. I'm going to guess the VRAM is clogged up here because of all of these textures. It only has 512 megabytes of it. Because when you look out into the distance, your frame rate really increases, but it could just be lighting or something, I don't know. On to the next one. Well, Stormworks is up next, and we're once again on the same train out in the middle of the ocean. The frame tearing that was going on last time is still completely there, and the frame rate is not much better than it was with stock clocks. We're hovering around 19 FPS, 18, 17. I look up to the sky, then we're going to get 25, yeah. It's a bit better, but I still do not recommend playing Stormworks on the 8400 GS. On to the next one. Yes, Street Legal Racing Redline is up next, and I have increased the settings since last time. We're now using a mixture of medium and high settings rather to a mixture of low and medium settings, and we're getting a little bit of stuttering going on, but we are relatively running this game on like high settings, not ultra but high. Go to the city here. Yeah, it always takes a while to load. Oh dear. 7 frames per second. Oh, that's not good. We've got to lower these settings, people. Oh dear. Thought I could get away with raising the settings a little bit. I couldn't. So we're back to where we were last time, or roughly, with the settings. And we're getting anywhere from 30 to 40 FPS. Oh, we just hit 65 frames per second. Although I think that was a bit of an odd example. Oops, stutter. Yeah, there is a bit of stuttering when loading in new objects around the vehicle, and things are taking quite a while to load. In fact, I think they're taking slightly longer to load than in stock clocks, and it's a little bit more unstable frame times than with stock clocks, but the frame rates are a little higher. Overall, yes, it's playable, but crashing makes things worse. Yeah, actually, the overclock has made this game really rather stuttery. On to the next one. Next game on our list is Farming Simulator 2011. Now, this is ran at 1440 by 900 with the settings on low. Not the absolute lowest, but just low. We're getting in the low 30s, high 20s, maybe even mid 30s. Not really much in the 20s. I think lows around 29. Not much stuttering, no frame tearing that I can really see. Sorry about the viewing angles of the monitor here and the colours not being quite right. It looks a lot darker than it actually is. That's just how my monitor is. It's not a very high quality monitor. It's very old. But the game is running fairly smoothly. We're loading in a fair few like tractors and implements, and we're getting 30 FPS for the majority of the time. 34 towards this house here. Oh, towards the house you only get 20s. Yeah, can drop to the 20s. You're loading in all of it at once, and it probably will drop down into the 20s. But otherwise, Farming Simulator 2011 is playable on this graphics card. On to the next one. And continuing on with our Farming Simulator vibe here, we have Farming Simulator 2015. It's running here at 1280 by 1024 on the lowest settings possible, and we're getting around 20 frames per second for the majority of the time. All up, not really the best. Could lower the settings a little bit more, like resolution wise, but I don't really think it'd be worth it because it would just look not very good. Farming Simulator 15 is sort of playable, but there's a lot of stuttering. The input lag is quite bad. A lot of stuttering and frame dips when you're moving the camera around. YouTube playback works surprisingly well now with the overclock, with 1080p full HD resolutions being possible on a simpler video, such as one of mine, like this one. The overclocks I ended up with was from a core clock of 567 MHz to 740 MHz, the memory from 333 MHz to 432 MHz, and the shader from 1400 MHz to 1850 MHz. A fairly good overclock. Shame it didn't really boost performance that much out of our 8 whole CUDA cores. To put that in perspective, for those of you who may not know, the graphics card that I use in my main computer, the RTX 2060 Super, has over 2,000 CUDA cores. And it's 2 generations old now. That just really puts in perspective how much of a potato this little graphics card, if you can even call it a graphics card, is. So I'm going to leave it there. This has been Leo's Electronics Solutions. Hope you enjoyed watching. Goodbye.